Alright, hello everybody and welcome to the video here. So this is the final middle of the pocket PiGRRL project that I've been working on, so I'll show it to you quickly. So here's the screen, the buttons here, and D-pad. I ended up cutting the A and B button, so because I didn't really want to. And here's the speaker. So you'll notice it's not exactly perfect. Like here's a bit of open here. I didn't end up putting the magnet, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some tape in this. It's not exact, but I think it's pretty close enough, and I end up using the socketed screws here. So I'll just quickly show you a quick demonstration to see that it works. So if I flip the switch here, there we go. Okay, so it's going to start Emulation Station. You can see I can go left, I can scroll left and right. And I put Game Boy games and NES games, but my Game Boy games don't seem to be working so far, but I can fix that in software. But for now, so I press the A button here, and then press the B button to go back. I can scroll down, I can scroll up, so yeah, so... Alright, so looking through the viewfinder here, let's see if I can start a game, just a quick demonstration. Okay. Let's load up go Super Mario Brothers. Just gonna scroll down to the S part. Alright, here you go. It's gonna load the ROM. There, see, and I'll play start buttons here. Try to play with one hand. But you can see the sound is working and everything. And it seems to work. There's slight lag, but it's nothing too big. And anyway, so that's it. Okay, so to quit, you press this button here, and it quits out. And then to shut down the unit, you just it's the what is it? The leftmost button, and you just click quit, shut down system, and shut down. It kind of hangs, so you just have to close it manually yourself. Yeah, I know it doesn't turn off the screen, but once the light stops blinking there on the side, you see the light blink. You see the red, there's a red and a green light for the Raspberry Pi. It stops blinking, we can safely turn it off. There we go. Okay, so now it's on to the tips and tricks.
Alright, so let's jump in straight into the parts. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly go over how we get the parts and stuff like that. Okay, so as I said in my previous video, the Pi A Plus whatever is out of stock for now. But what you do for that is you go to like Google and you type and you just type in like a bunch of other Raspberry Pi resellers, and you'll go to their sites and try to see if it's available through one of them. If it's not available through one of them either, then what you'll do is like just for example, if I click on the product page here, if I go to let's move my thing. If I go to a new tab, you'll see it'll say enter your details below, and we'll send you a notification when it's back in stock. So that's what I did. For my second one, because I bought a second one from another reseller to do some testing, which I'll talk about later. But anyway, okay, so not much. The first issue you'll run the first issue you run into is the 3D printing. Since Adafruit here doesn't provide the case, you have to make your own case. What you'll do is okay, if I scroll up here, I believe it. Okay, so if you click on the 3D printing here, and you download the files here. There's a couple. There's two versions of this project. There's the 2-button version and the 4-button version. I would strongly suggest you make the 2-button version, because when you talk about 4 buttons, that's stepping into Super Nintendo territory. And that's using the L and R button, and the L and R button are along the lines here. So I made the 2-button version. I think it's a lot easier They're both hard, what I find, but especially if it's your first project. But I did 2-button. So what you'll do is for the 2-button version, you'll do the top. You'll do the top. You need the top, the bottom, these buttons here, the A, B, the D-pad, and that's about it, I believe. Yeah. Well, anyway, but you can go to the link here, the Thingiverse link here, and you can see details of each thing. In terms of getting it printed, you can. There are sites that you can go to where someone will print it for you, and you pay to print it. What I did was I went to the university I went to had a 3D printer available. So what you could do is you can ask, if you go like college or university, maybe even your high school, you can ask your science department. In my case, it was the engineering department had 3D printer available, and you can inquire about that. That's how I got mine printed. So yeah, but what they said, anyway, so the files are, oh sorry, just a sec, the thing files are here. See, so the buttons, the top, the bottom, AB buttons, and the D-pad, which is this one. Yeah, it's this one. I think I use this one. So that's it. Okay, so the Adafruit recommends you can go sites. I think it's 3dhub.com. I haven't really tried it, but you could look at it. Or if you have your own, some people have their own 3D printer. So I mean, but if you have your own though, yeah. So you do the recommended stuff they say here. Yeah, and okay, I'll talk about the magnets later. But yeah. So yeah. Okay. So that's the first major hurdle. Second major hurdle is the soldering bit. So if you've never soldered before, like, I would suggest you don't start with it. I mean, don't do this right away. Just to get a feel for how soldering works. What you could do is if you go to like Google and you type in like soldering kit. Here, learn how to solder kit. Okay. So, depending, if you have a local electronics store, they will most likely have some soldering kits for you to work on. So, yeah, so what they do is they come with instructions and they walk you through it. There's also this video here, this video Collins Lab Soldering, which I watched and whatever. So you can watch on soldering and desoldering. So yeah, soldering really isn't the most complicated thing to it. It is tedious though, and you will run into a lot. Well, you will run into it. It's like any skill. You have to, you start and you just have to keep doing it. Okay, so that's basically it. I don't think so in terms of what soldering iron you should get, I wouldn't suggest you get like what's called a variable watt solder, which like you can control how the heat temperature, because I mean, if you're just starting out, you just want a basic soldering iron. What I did was, I went to a local electronics store and I bought one. You don't really have to. I'm gonna say you don't need one that's too expensive. Mine was about $20 Canadian, so I think around that range, $20-$30. The only thing is those types of solderings you can't change the tip with. And for this project, my tip was a little bit because you see these holes here on this board here are really small, so it just takes a while. But yeah, so buy one. You can get pretty good ones that are a good quality for not a lot of money. So that's what I would do. If this isn't your some like people who've been working with soldering a long time will buy like more expensive soldering irons that have like interchangeable tips, and it's all kinds of cool stuff. But for now, I do just keep it simple. And okay, so basically what tools? Okay, these flush covers, wire strippers, you can go to your local hardware store and find them. I will say that for the screws here, these ones here, my local hardware store didn't have flatheads of this kind. They only had socket head, so you can use socket head too. Now in terms of if you should use this exact one, I mean, that's what it says to use. If you have experience using screws, you can try using whichever ones you want, but I found these are the only ones that work. So yeah. Okay, so this stuff, screwdriver, whatever, I mean, you probably have a screwdriver lying around. If not, you can buy pretty good screwdriving kits for not a lot of money. Excuse me. Okay, So and wire strippers, okay, I forgot about wire strippers. This is big because we're dealing with 30 gauge wire here, which is really small. So you'll want to find wire strippers that cut 30 gauge wire. I mean, while I find some, but you just have to dig a bit. You could probably use bigger wire, but I mean 30, and it's already really small. The form factor is really small, so it's already tight enough as it is. So I don't think you can go any larger. You might be able to go 28, but I would stick to 30 if you can. Just buy whatever colors you want. They recommend this guy to buy red and black, but me, I found gray and purple. So or you can use one color too. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so the biggest hurdle you'll run into is the controller here, because it took me, like, this is what gave me the most trouble, like because you have to manually solder all the connections and all. So basically, as I'll explain, what you do is I followed in order, but I would suggest the two steps you start with is the Pi TFT, which is the screen, and the buttons. But actually, I would suggest you probably start with the buttons first. Okay, wrong page. This yeah, okay, you'll start with this step first, the Perma Proto stage. And by the way, the Perma Proto is the PC. Well, it's not really a PCB. It's a no, what is it called? It's a perf board. I mean, if you have experience, you probably use any perf board you run. The problem is they don't give you the dimensions of what it's cut at. So I mean, but if you think you can use your own perf board, by all means, it's just a perf board here. The difference is this one here sort of looks like it has the same markings that a breadboard does. So anyway, so okay, so you can cut the perf border here. Okay, so you follow this. I would suggest they use a rotary cutting tool, but I wouldn't suggest use a rotary cutting tool. You can use a regular cutter to even a knife too if you want. You can like hold a ruler here and cut them, and you have to cut it like almost exact. You can leave a bit of as long as you cut it properly, because once you cut it, you can't go back. So I would suggest you buy. I'll suggest you buy 2 or 3 of these in case you you screw up. I think I ended up buying 4 because that's just what it is. Then okay, so installing the buttons. I mean, this is for the 2, but then they also give you the 4. I would suggest you before soldering. I would suggest you what was I gonna say? I don't remember. Oh yeah, okay. No, to put them on the board here, you really have to make sure they snap tight. You can bend the pins. There's pins on these little tactile buttons here, so you can bend them and stuff like that. But just make sure they're because if one is crooked, it's gonna be a bit more difficult, and it's really difficult to desolder these because they're so small. So make sure they're snapped on properly. It'll take you a couple of tries to get it, but just do it. And okay, before you go to this part, this is what I suggest you do. Go to I'm gonna put a picture in the description, but because me, what I did was I bought myself a nice breadboard, and a breadboard. I'll show you what a breadboard looks like. Yeah, okay. Well, you don't need a giant breadboard. This one will do right here. This breadboard classic. Again, you go to your local electronics store. They all have breadboards. It's a common thing. So yeah, so this is breadboard. What I suggest you do is replicate. Oh shoot, where did it go? Okay, this on a breadboard. So you put these and put them on the breadboard right here. That's what I suggest you do, just to make sure all the connections work. We'll talk about after, once you burn the image to an SD card and all that kind of stuff. Alright, so basically I've read, there's another video here about breadboards, but basically they say they use 22 gauge wire on the breadboard, strip and tin, whatever. So this is okay, you can do this. This one okay, and this one's okay. It's just the up button here is a bit tricky because you have to use a jumper cable. I think it's male to male or something like that, but it just goes here and here, and you can use okay. And then you'll connect. You'll put I think it's male to female, male female jumper cable over here. And over here, and one of these 3 holes here, one of these 3 holes, you can put one of these 3 holes, one of these 3. This hole, one of these 3 holes. If your button's a bit tricky again, you can either put it here, and that's about it. Yeah, so you try to jam it in there, and then the cable's there, and you also have the power ground here. Don't forget that. You mean, like, I kind of forgot that a lot. So, and this ground one here, and what you'll do is okay, once you do on the breadboard and stuff, you can go to the software part of the guide and download the image, burn to an SD card. It's really not hard to burn to an SD card. You can use what's it called? I mean, I don't remember, so I'm gonna look it up in this link they gave us here. All right, so so it's called Win3D. This imager for Windows. There's also there's a Mac there's Mac OS X, and then you can also do it in Linux too. Just be sure that the SD card you buy, you can buy a blank SD card. They recommend 4 gigs, so buy 4 gigs, and make sure it's blank and not has important stuff on it, because when you flash an SD card, there's no going back. Excuse me. Okay, so once you flash it to an SD card, you can okay, so once you got the prototype, then you can start doing the screen. The screen, I would suggest, okay, so first problem I ran into is the header here. They say it says here to put fun tack, blue tack on it, and solder, but I find that it really doesn't work, so I just kind of put it on the book. And because you don't want to leave any space between the header and the board. The first time I did that, yeah, I left a bit of space, and it won't work as well. So make sure, like, between the header here and the pins, like, none of the pins are exposed. They could be like none of the pins or not very exposed. So okay, so once you do that, I wouldn't suggest you do this yet, or this yet, or this yet. Our purpose now is just to test the controls. So what you'll do is you'll plug in your Raspberry Pi. Yeah, what you do is you'll plug in some I'm gonna close a bunch of tabs here because we're gonna start going nuts. We'll get back to them later. Alright, so what you'll do is you go to Google and you type in Raspberry Pi Model A+ pin. Hopefully it gives it to us. Yeah. Alright, so you will do that. I'll put the link in the description or whatever anyway. So basically this is the pin out diagram that you have to follow, and what you'll notice is go back to the circuit diagram here. You'll see it says okay, so left, right, all that kind of stuff. So the left key is GPIO4, so you put in your jumper wire into GPIO4, which is here. Ground is right next to it, so you can plug in your ground there and do all that kind of stuff. And so you'll do that, and of course to do that you'll need to put in some ROMs onto RetroPie. You probably know where to find ROMs. I can't really tell you where to get ROMs because all that legal whatever stuff. But once you put some ROMs on and figure out how to put ROMs on, it's not really hard to do it. I would suggest you use, to put ROMs, what you do is you plug in a wireless adapter into your Raspberry Pi, and you can wirely SSH into it, or use WinSCP for Windows. And I don't know, I think you use, maybe it's use FileZilla, I'm not sure, but the username is Pi, I think, and the username is Pi, and the password is Raspberry, something like that. You'll just have to find. You can Google that though, and you just put in some ROM. Once you put in some ROM, so that's what you do. You'll plug in the left key here. What does it say? Right key is GPIO17, so that's GPIO17, and all that. Then that's how you test to see that they're all working. All that stuff. So what you do is Emulation Station will start. It's a main menu. You choose like your system, and you can use the up and down arrow keys to scroll through your ROM list and all that kind of stuff. So that's how that goes. Once it works completely, because you'll use the breadboard reference after once you're doing the actual board. Okay, so let's go in. Okay, so now we've done all our prep work. We've done the breadboard prototype. Everything's worked. Now it's actually time to solder this. Okay, so it says you have to cut really short wires, but I found I've never been able to cut really short wires. but you know, do your best, you know, then strip and, you know, whatever. And then what you do is you'll follow the circuit diagram, and you'll it's really hard because you have to go from behind. See, you have to go from behind the board. So behind the board isn't labeled, right? So you can probably I mean, I didn't. I just counted like really tediously, but you can try to feel your way through it. And so basically you'll solder okay. Yeah, you'll solder if I zoom into this picture here. So yeah, you'll just solder what I suggest you do when you're soldering is when you finish soldering, you can test your connection using a multimeter. Basically you put your multimeter into continuity mode, and you can test the solder joints. If most multimeters beep if it's connected properly. If it's not connected properly, you can unsolder and resolder it again. To the multimeter, I like to use the spark fun has a good guide on it. So okay, so yeah, continuity mode. Yeah, okay, so read this guide here, and I think there's also, you can look it up, but basically, so you do that for all these solder joints here. When you solder them from behind, check that they're all proper, because if this isn't properly, one of your buttons won't work, or more of your buttons won't work. Be careful, because that kind of happened to me. Like one time my left key, my right key didn't work, my A button didn't work. I would get the up key, but not the, so it's a big hassle. This is the most tedious part of the entire thing, because I realized that without the controller, it's not really, you can't really do anything with the device, right? All right, so then you trim the legs. Okay, all right, so the next part here is the buttons. Okay, and this is pretty complicated. Actually, before we get to the buttons, let's go to the Pi cable section. I would also suggest you buy multiple of these cables. There's 26 pin to 20. I only got the one, so I kind of screwed it up the first time. But yeah, so I had to rebuy it again. It's and I found that it's really hard to peel, so you just have to be patient. Peel it one at a time. Sometimes, like one time, like I peeled two, like at this, like, and there were two stuck to each other, and it gets even harder to peel. So you'll have to really. And the next problem I found, once you peel it, you have to cut the wires that you don't need. So be really careful when the white wire is wire number 1. So if you go to the circuit diagram here, you see it says wire 2. That and these two, you need wires 2 and 6. So or then you won't be able to power it using the battery. You might if you accidentally cut like 17 and you have 16, you can remap it in software. If you go to the software tab here, software manual, they tell you how to remap it. But just be mindful, these two you can't remap. But I think the rest you can remap if you're oh no, sorry, you also can't remap number 9, the ground for the PCB, which you'll solder like on here. Okay, so basically what you'll do is sorry, I lost my train of thought. What you'll do is where was I? Oh yeah, buttons. Okay, so following your breadboard, you have to go from behind. I mean, it makes it really difficult. But if you scroll through this diagram here, it'll say to do 2 and 6 first. I wouldn't do those two first, because we're still in the testing mode, and if you wire those two, you won't be able to move your you won't be able to move the unit, you know. So yeah, see kind of the wires and stuff. It says here to use some heat shrink tubing. I didn't use it because once I put it in, I couldn't tell which wire was which. I mean, but if you can, by all means do it, because it'll make it a lot. It looks a lot nicer with the heat shrink tubing. But I couldn't do it, so I didn't do it. Definitely. Okay, so I would suggest I tried doing them individually, then checking, but it takes too long. So you can follow the breadboard that you'll make, and I really strongly suggest you do make the breadboard. I mean, you know, if you're starting out, you know, even if you don't, just to check stuff. So you'll wire all these buttons here. Okay, so say you wire all the buttons here, right? It looks like that, kind of. Yeah. The next thing to do, we'll test it using the screen. So what you'll do is you'll plug in the screen here, and where was it? Shoot, was it in mount display? Oh yeah, okay. You'll connect it to the screen, like this, like that. And then when you connect it to the screen after, it's same idea. It'll start normally, but you'll see it through the little screen, and then you can test the buttons after. Oh yeah, I didn't really take any pictures of me doing it, but you can just, that's what led me to test. So yeah, because the control is the most important part. Once you know that works completely, you can set that aside and do the rest. The rest is a lot more simpler, believe me. But okay, so yeah, so you'll connect this, then you'll connect the screen here once again. You'll put in your SD card, and then just plug into using your cell phone charger to a wall outlet. Just wait like normal, and then test the buttons work. All of them work. If all of them work, you're okay. But if one of them doesn't work, I found that sometimes when you connect the cable and the screen doesn't turn on, I thought my cable was busted, but I think what happens is because there's a loose connection, so it doesn't turn on at all. So what you would want to do is resolder the one that you have trouble with, and that's it. One problem I ran into was the up button here, and since you're going from behind, you can solder what is it, G5, or I think I soldered G4 because I tried soldering it to this one here. It didn't want to work, so I did it to that one. And yeah, all right, so anyway, that was the buttons. All right, let's get the rest of the guide, but first I forgot to mention one thing about the buttons. If you can't find where is it, this one, if you can't find 26 by 26, what you could do is get there's another one that the Adafruit sells. I think if you type in 40 to 26, yeah, all right, here it is. You can buy this is what I end up using, because I bought some of the I bought some of my stuff, some of my parts from another electronics store, and they only had this cable, but it works too. The page loads. Okay, wait, I'm gonna cut that. Okay, yeah, so it looks like this. You can cut this part off and then peel it like normal. That's what I did. So yeah, but remember, and another thing is, these cables are delicate, so once you solder everything in there, don't grab it with two hands, or stabilize it. Put it on like a piece of board or something and carry it around, because they're very delicate. Okay, so let's go through the rest of the guide here. All right, so okay, so first part, the software, like I told you before, like I told you all before, put this yeah, you can look at this guide to upload the ROMs. I don't know. I use WinSCP, and I remote desktop. It shows you all the folders, and you just whatever. Look carefully at the start screen, and the stuff flies in. It'll tell you what the IP address is. That's basically what you have to find. Okay, and I'll show you if you go to software manual. Let me close some of these tabs here. I think it shows you how to assign mapping the keys, so you can map them and do all that kind of stuff. So you can read that if you want. Okay, so prep the slides. Okay, remember we don't need the red wire, so you'll solder these two. To put the heat shrink tubing, if it's your, you can buy heat shrink tubing, and you can get like a heat gun, or I think you can use like a hair dryer. So basically, when you do the heat, what I suggest you do is you put it like on the Panavise. Oh yeah, speaking of the Panavise, you can get a helping third head, but also get a Panavise. I didn't get one right away, but then I had a hard time with the buttons. I was remember I had a problem because I couldn't stabilize my board properly, so I got a Panavise. So I would strongly suggest you buy a Panavise. It's bulky. Not bulky. It's kind of big, but it's worth the price. It's worth the price of admission. Believe me. So yeah, what you'll do is you'll so you can get a heat gun, whatever. Just you don't need a very powerful heat gun, but what you do with the heat gun is what you do is, once you finish using it, don't put it away right away. Wait till it completely because it's kind of a hazard, but wait till it completely what's the word, the heat completely dissipates. Like, you can't feel any heat if you put your hand around it. You can keep it out for a day before putting it away. That's what I did. So yeah, okay, and this it's great practice for soldering too. All this stuff. That's what more or less I learned. Alright, so the power boost, just be careful because like the holes are really small, and you know you might you don't want to burn anything else, because my soldering is big, right? The one I had, so you have to really be careful. So yeah, just follow. Yeah, okay. So zoom into these pictures. If you what I suggest you do is you bring like if you have a tablet, bring it, or just print it out, print out the picture. But if you have a tablet, you can like bring it to where you work, the workbench or the table you're working on, and oh yeah, you know what? That just reminds me of something else. For soldering, right? Try to get lead-free solder, because lead's kind of dangerous, and don't breathe any of the fumes that come. What you could do is you can get a small fan, but I've heard people say you can get a fume catcher, but I've never really seen one. But you can buy a fume catcher if you're online or if your local store has them. But a fan works well too. That's what I ended up using. So yeah. And okay, so the challenge here, there's another challenge here, is threading these screws here. They're really hard to do. What I ended up doing was I just you try with the screwdriver to screw it in, and then I went from both ways. Like I went from the back and the front, tried to screw it both in. Just keep trying and trying. You'll get it eventually, but it isn't easy. So yeah, and then you test, do what it says, test the circuit. You can do these steps in order because you're okay at this point. Once you know your controls work completely, you don't touch the control pad anymore, or the completed circuit, and do the rest. That's what I should have done, but now I know. So yeah, do all this stuff. Once again, you have to thread it. This one's even harder because the board's even smaller, but you can do that too. The question is, how big of wire should you cut? Unfortunately, I keep cutting wires that are way too big, and I strip off. I leave a lot of the insulation, not the insulation, whatever the inside wire out. I mean, only by practice you'll know. But you can try to cut them small. You don't have to cut them very big because it's a small board. If you do cut them too big, you might be able to tie the wires. It's just a thought. Okay, so once again, this is for the audio. If you're wondering about this thing, there's no volume control knob on them. On this build here, what you could put it though. Like I saw one person on YouTube. I did a YouTube search for this project, and somebody did it. So if you know how to put which ones to solder for a volume knob, by all means you can do it. And I think it's also possible to put a headphone socket. I'm not sure, but I think it's another possibility. If you know what you're doing. This is hard, because you have to make sure you attach the wire to the proper two, and then the positive and now. Just double check, go slowly. That's what I did. And yeah, and so do the screws here. It's easy to screw the Raspberry Pi into place because the holes are big enough, and the monitor. But the rest you have to thread it carefully. And the speaker, don't touch the iron with the soldering iron tip. If mine didn't look exactly like this, but just keep going, solder it. And then once you have the speaker installed, put in the battery. That was another thing about the battery. It's kind of hard to put in. You might have to unscrew these screws to put it in, or what you do is you have to wedge it in here, make like a 90-degree angle, and you connect the battery and turn it on. And if the speaker is working properly, you'll hear a hum. Like you'll hear a low hum coming from it. So yeah, that's it. Alright, so next step here. Okay, so since we've already installed the header, the buttons here, once again, they're pretty simple. Just put them on. Make sure they're like as close to the board as possible. Then you solder them on the other side. Then you have to trim the buttons with your cutters. Okay, and then this part here, this GPIO 18 light here, we have to disable this because I found if you press the up button, it starts blinking because of the turning off the backlight. It does both things, so you have to cut the trace here. You can use a screwdriver if you don't have a hobby knife. If you don't use a hobby knife, you can put a ruler here and cut it. To make sure that it's actually cut, you can use your multimeter again in continuity mode. They have a good picture here. If you go to, I'll put a link, but if you there's another model that they built of this that it's kind of similar, and it'll show you. So once again, you go to not the gamepad. Okay, Pi TFT. Okay, look. So what you do is you'll put your two leads here, your two multimeter leads, and then continuity mode. So yeah, so I'll put that too, but that's how you test to see, because they have to be cut completely. Excuse me. Okay. And okay, other hard part is sticking the display. These two pieces of tape didn't work for me, so I had to put an extra set of double-sided tape. What you do is you press it really hard, and then I let it sit for a day, well, for a night, and then it was okay. If it still doesn't though, like, just keep pressing it, but it's kind of not complicated, but it takes a while to stick, but make sure it sticks well. Alright, so now okay, so this is easy to do. Yeah, then you can mount it. The difficulty will be here because once you because you'll have the controller already wired to it. Because I mean, if you want to, well, I suggest you do it. I told you when I told everybody you do is to do it first. So just be mindful of that. Okay, so then we're gonna go to the assembly. All right. So yeah, check the wires. I mean, before you when you get to this step, plug in this into the monitor. No, not the monitor. The monitor into the Pi thing. Oh, flip the switch and see if the controller works. That's what I did. And before screwing everything in tightly. I mean, before using screwdriver. Okay, so then they say to tack the battery. I didn't really tack it like onto the PC on the board here because I didn't do this whole heat shrink thing, and it's like I said, it's so delicate, this thing, that I'm afraid it's gonna sever one of my buttons. So I just I put it like more towards the bottom of the speaker, but you can try. And then just have to put it in, fasten the final screw. There's also what is it, a little magnet, which we saw it before in the beginning, but I haven't talked about if I can. Yeah, see the magnets here. You can buy them there's magnet stores and things like that, so just have to find some strong glue. If you don't want to put a magnet, you can use tape, which I'm gonna use some tape to just tape that side of the board. So yeah, okay, so I think that's about it. So once it's all closed up like this, try it again one more time, make sure all the buttons work. I didn't end up putting my A and B button because I found that it didn't really work well. But so I just put on my control pad, and because the A and B button are just buttons anyway. But yeah, because if you don't put in the control pad 3D print that you did, you won't be able to do diagonals, on like Contra or something. So, or on fighting games. So yeah, that's about it. The only thing is enter in space here. I don't know if select is space, but select doesn't seem to work for me. So yeah. So yeah, but if you wanna, you might be able to remap a select button, start and select. So yeah, that basically does it for the tips and tricks. What I found is that the hardest thing, like I said, and I will emphasize again, is part of the controller. You have to give you the most problems. It gave me the most problems. The rest after that is making sure your wires are cut short enough, or just being really careful. Cause yeah, and I think that about covers it. So thanks for watching, and tell me if you put any comments and stuff in the comments stuff, any suggestions how you did it, maybe you did it differently or like that, or if you want to ask me some questions, I'll put the relevant links, and that's it. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.